I was illegally sitting on the White House lawn with Mark Thomas. That's when it gets hairy.
There's a clip that I use. I've got like a little 2-minute trailer for my interviews, and there's a clip I use of Michael Cumming, and I wondered if you wanted to share any more light on it for anyone that's seen that clip. And he says I was illegally sat on the White House lawn with Mark Thomas. That's when things get hairy.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I remember that we did an interview with a representative of the White House, and I threatened him with a Beanie Baby, and it was to make a political point about you couldn't even get a Beanie Baby out of or into Iraq because of sanctions. And so I sat there just going, this is what we're talking about, as if to say we need sanctions, don't we? We've got to stop this. It was very funny because they wouldn't let me in at one point into we got into America. We got in, and Michael and I were a little bit worried about getting into America because the year previously we'd got, or was it previous? I think it was just previously. We'd done a stunt where we just put loads and loads of we retitled trains in Euston Station and stuck boards on it, and the police were called, and we got sort of like cautioned and all of that kind of stuff. And I remember Michael was quite worried about whether we would get into America or not. But he was great to work with. Michael was really good fun to work with. There were things there, he says we were sat on the White House lawn and then things got hairy. There are so many things where you could go. For me, I could equally turn around to Michael and say, I was traveling in a hot air balloon over a US listening station with Michael Cumming when we nearly went into the water tower and crashed the balloon. And that's when things got hairy. So there's a whole host of things that we did. You just go, I can't quite believe that we got away with that. It was great fun doing the show. Michael was a sort of integral part of it, because so much was filmed when we did the comedy product on product. So it was filmed on the run. It was improvised.
Yeah,
you went with what was happening. One of my favorite moments, which is so silly, involves this Tory politician who's now dead, and he was a real utter bastard while he was alive, real sort of like hang 'em, flog 'em, beat 'em. And we bumped into him. We were filming some stuff. We bumped into him on College Green. And I said, excuse me, can we have a quick word? He goes, no, I'm rushing. And turns and ran bollock height into a bollard. And it's an elderly gentleman. And all of us just went, oh. You could equally say when Rhodes Boyson ran bollock high into the bollard, we knew things had got weird. Or you could say when the caretaker locked the MP for Oldham out of the office, we knew things had got weird, because that's all these different things. We had so many things that were just. I remember at one point we were chasing a guy over the way in which arms deals were structured and supported financially, but using taxpayers' money. And we chased the senior civil servant, the guy at the Whitehall Mandarin in charge of this. We chased him into, we waited for him outside the Guildhall. There was a big luncheon. And all the people on the door just let us through. They assumed that we were okay. So he walked through in his black tie and we just followed in, this bunch of fucking Herberts in jackets trying to keep the cold out with a load of cameras. We followed him in on the red carpet, went downstairs, all these people going, good evening, sir, as we chased this bloke. And he walked very quickly into the toilet and I followed him. And I'm mic'd up. So I'm having a conversation with the senior civil servant at the urinal in the Guildhall over at a city dinner. And you do sort of think, do you know, I like the unpredictability of my job. I like the you know, some of it went well, some of it didn't, but whatever happened, you would never have the same day. And I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And we got some good old results. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Do you feel that, like, you wouldn't be able to do that show, or certainly not the same way these days? Because I was watching one the other day where you're at the arms fair and you're giving media training to people.
Yeah.
And I was like, one tweet saying Mark Thomas is here, don't talk to him, would like ruin that whole piece, wouldn't it? You know?
Yeah.
Or what one message in a WhatsApp group. I presume that all arms dealers are all in one WhatsApp group. But
no, they are. There's a WhatsApp for utter cunts, and it's actually that's the name of the group. But you're absolutely right. But I mean, not only has technology moved on, it would make it more difficult to do. But now, I think the way in which, well, there's two things. One is broadcasters wouldn't go with it now. I like to think that we slipped in between the IRA ceasefire and Al Qaeda kicking in. Right, that was the period of time that we operated in, and there was just a bit more flexibility, literally on the ground with the police, and how they would accept you or not accept you. And broadcasters went with that. I mean, there was one, I remember talking to a mate of mine who was having a meeting with the Channel 4, and he came out and he phoned me up and just went, "You fucking bastard." And I said, what? He said, "I was in a meeting with Channel 4 and I was pitching this idea when the bloke gets a phone call and goes, 'Sorry, I've got to go and stop Mark Thomas projecting onto MI6,' and then rushed out of the room." And he said, "You've completely ruined my pitch to Channel 4." I think the broadcasters allowed us a certain leeway because of that. But also now there's a change in the format. So a lot of stuff happens on YouTube, or stuff will happen on Twitter, or happen on Instagram, or what have you. And that's very much about bite-sized chunks. And so it's about going in, getting the hit, dump, and getting out. And our ones sort of started like that, and then it turned into sort of playing the story, just developing the story. So, I mean, now you've got people like Jonathan Pye who will, his clips, or Michael Spicer, who make these brilliant little clips. They're made just for those little moments. How they get on in TV, I don't, we'll wait and find out.
Yeah. I mean, there's still like John Oliver is doing sort of 20-minute sections where he's like taking on big companies or governments,
and he's amazing at it.
Yeah,
I mean, he's properly amazing. I love watching his stuff. He is the person who's really taken the mantle of Jon Stewart. He's taken that and just gone, "This is mine now."
And I suppose that is the freedom of HBO as well, where they do let him push the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think when you get people at Radio 4 going, "We need to have more right-wing comics." There's a myth that we haven't got enough right-wing comics, and that somehow Jim Davidson and Bob Mills are the only people. And it's kind of like, actually, there's bloody loads of them. What do you mean? Just because someone that doesn't stand up and say, "I vote Tory," doesn't mean they're not right-wing. This idea. So, but the Radio 4, BBC perceive themselves to be under threat, and they are under threat from the government. So they sort of cut their cloth to it and go, "Okay, we'll be a little less adventurous."
Because that's why I brought up the Mark Thomas comedy product, because I wondered if the sort of the guerrilla style of that, and sort of having to deal with things as they happened while you were filming that, like if that came handy when you were making a sort of guerrilla style documentary.
It did a bit, and in fact, it's funny you say that, because there's a couple of times when we were doing things without real, we were filming in places without proper permissions, and Stuart was very jittery about it because he's like a recognizable person, and to me, I didn't even think twice about it. I thought, well, this isn't, I was illegally sitting on the White House lawn with Mark Thomas, and we shouldn't have really been there. We blagged our way in doing an interview, and then we got kicked out. I thought that's when it gets hairy, not standing in Birmingham Station trying to film, But yeah, I mean, I remember that. It seems such a long time ago, that the Mark Thomas stuff. But it was again, that's a series that it feels like, I mean, it is sort of its time, I suppose, to an extent. But it's a pity there aren't those sorts of things we could do with those kind of things now. But of course, like all these things are harder to do in this, in the same way that Brass Eye would be very hard to make now. I imagine Mark would be hard to do, just because people know who he is, and everybody's got a phone, and there's a social media to blow everything on, and but
you have to balance yourself, Mark.